This is a tutorial on how to create this advanced travel compilation transition that I created as a brand deal for Royal Caribbean. The difficulty level is a 4 out of 5, and the techniques that we will use include match cut, speed ramping, masking, and also keyframing. The app that I'll be using to demonstrate this is CapCut, and here are some examples of how to apply it to your niche. Pause to read and let's get into it. So this lesson is marked a higher difficulty level, not because the techniques are very difficult, but because it's a concept that requires a lot of planning and understanding the order in which to film everything in order for it to work out. So this combines a number of different transition techniques. First is this laptop transition where I mask it and then go into the final result, and then wipe transition, and then also this wipe where you use your hands to assist and then catch it. We also have this pretending to be taking a selfie video turned into a third person video, and then a coming out of the phone, which continues on to the next one and the next one and the next one, and so on and so forth. And then also this incorporates a loop from the end to the beginning right here. So several different techniques that we'll be covering in this tutorial. So there are multiple different clips that we need to film for this, but I'm going to show you the order in which I filmed it in and which orders actually matter. So out of all of the transitions, this one can be done at any point after you get home from your trip, let's say. So first you need to get this one clip of your key shot, whatever it is that you want to feature. The wipe is really easy because you just wipe up and you can connect this to any clip that you incorporate the wipe. So it doesn't matter if it is done later or done before. And then this also, when you do a wipe transition, you can wipe into anywhere. So as long as the wipe direction is the same, it doesn't really matter the order. This is where it matters what video comes after and what video comes before. So this video is connected to this video. So in order to create this video in the pink dress, you have to first have filmed this clip and get a screenshot of this particular frame. And then this clip is also going to affect the next clip where you come out of the screen. And then this also gets screenshotted and becomes the next screen. And again, the same thing becomes the next one, and again, the same thing. And this is where it ends. And when you end here, it doesn't really matter how you end because ultimately you're just grabbing a screenshot from this and then doing it in whatever location you prefer for the last clip. So that's understanding which clips affect each other. And so in between all of these clips, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, and this one, they will all affect each other. And if any single one of them goes wrong, the whole thing will not work out, or at least up until that point. Let's say you have a clip that goes wrong here. Like this somehow didn't match up, or something didn't work, or you couldn't use this clip for some reason. Therefore, this clip also wouldn't work. Okay, so you have to do this in order for the phone pull-out transition. Okay, now let's break down how to film each shot, especially ones where there is some camera movement involved. Let's start with this one. So you want to make note that when you are actually creating this scene, when you are going to screenshot this for what is in the laptop itself, you will be cropping this into a horizontal ratio. So it will look somewhat like this, depending on what your desktop screen size and ratio is. Now let's take a look at the clip of the laptop, and you see that I screenshotted it and then I cropped it on the top and the bottom so that this ship fits nicely in the middle of the laptop screen. And this is because this was to advertise the cruise, and so it is absolutely crucial to have it in the center of this frame itself. Now we'll go into details of like how to screenshot and put it on your laptop later, but that is just one very important thing to note when you are in the spot and filming, to make sure the composition is focused on this center part right here, and it will be cropped horizontally like so. And also this is why you must be filming in 4K, because when you crop like this, you're going to lose a lot of resolution, so make sure to film in the highest quality. Next, let's talk a little bit about this whip pan. You want to try and ask the photographer to give it some speed like this, so that when you are editing it later on, there is minimal editing for you to do. If they can give you speed, and if there's also motion blur, then even better. But if you don't have motion blur, that's okay too. You can work it out by potentially blending the two clips, or just making sure the speed is fast enough by speed ramping, and you can still connect the two very seamlessly. So here is how it connects here. So you want to make sure you continue the same motion coming up like so. So the most important thing about whip pan is understanding the direction that you're whipping in and making sure to always keep it consistent. All right, very, very important. And now I am walking slowly towards the phone, and then what I want to do is hold the corner, and this has to be wide angle or else I would be too cropped in. So in order to see my hands and what it's doing, it has to be on 0.5, and then you whip away. Again, try to have the photographer give it some speed so that you get a little bit of motion blur when possible, if possible. Now, same concept here. When they start here, ask them to go further back. One mistake that I see people make a lot is that they start their whip pan somewhere around here and they just whip in very short distance. That is not as ideal, because you want to have some leeway to be able to speed it up and make it look more seamless. So make sure to ask the photographer to film beyond the 90 degrees. So 90 degrees from the subject is right around here. It's ideal if you go beyond, but don't be less than 90 degrees shooting from 45 degrees and then going into the subject. That's just not enough leeway. Now with this one, it's very simple. The videographer just has to walk back while walking steady, and then when you push them out, they should try to speed up, or you can also slow down your walk. So you can see how he sped up here. My husband took this. So I push, lightly push. This is not a purposeful push. It just looks like you're pushing the camera. And then he needs to go from a slow walk, and I need to also do a slow walk, and then push out. I continue my not so fast walk, and he has to walk backwards really fast while holding the phone steady. Now, given the stabilization of phones nowadays, it's really not difficult to film this at all. He didn't need any other gadgets or anything. He just did this handheld with both of his hands and did the little duck walk that we talked about in lesson 2. So you can go and check it out if you need a little bit of a revision on that. Now, I took a screenshot of the scene that I think is nice, and I put it onto my second phone. So I have a second phone. You can also borrow whoever is around you their phone, ask a friend, or whoever is filming for you. I'm sure they have their own phone as well. Just put the screenshot onto their phone and then use their phone as a screen. It doesn't matter what phone you use, just as long as it's the shape of a phone. And then you want to come up just close enough to the screen, but not too close that you're cropped all the way in. So if you're too cropped in like this is too close. You want to, when you're filming, try to give it a little bit of space, like so. In this particular frame, you can see the full screenshot, and you'll understand why later when we go into the editing app, and leave some little space on the outside, outskirts right here, around here, so that you can then crop in and match it up later on. And we'll talk about how to do that, including how to keyframe it and all that good stuff. And also, the way that you tilt your phone also matters, because phones often have reflections, right? So you want to be careful of how you tilt it and try to avoid reflections when you can. And then next, I screenshotted this scene, put it onto the other phone, and then started from here. And when you are positioning your phone with the screenshot, try not to have it tilt upwards like this or tilt downwards like this. Try to have it flat and not tilted in any direction so that it is at the same level as the camera. And this is just so as to avoid any strange tilts, and when you're editing it will look a lot smoother. Okay, so this again is he is just walking back steadily with both hands holding and doing a little duck walk. And then I took a screenshot right here and then continued it in the next location. Again, just repeating the same steps and also just giving it some space so that we can crop in and match the screenshot exactly. And then doing the same walk. I like to continue the motion, the same pull-out motion, and the reason is because it looks a lot more smooth and it's almost like a continuation. You keep coming out of something versus coming out and then stopping and having no motion. This is more of a stylistic preference. This is not a must, but just how I did it. And then continuing it from here, and I screenshotted it right here. What I really love about this transition is how it's able to showcase so many different aspects of the cruise that I was advertising for. Their food, their casino, their Central Park deck, their slides, and their top deck, you know. So this is a great transition if you want to showcase different spaces, if you want to showcase, let's say, different members on a team. You know, each pullout could be a different team in the office or something like that. So there's so many different applications for this really fun transition that's actually not hard to make at all. I know it sounds complex or it's a little tedious, but honestly, it's really easy. So now I have the last screenshot, and I've made sure I've connected every single clip as I am filming it so that I ensure I have a fully functioning connected reel until I get to this point before I continue the next clip. And of course, I'll be showing you how to edit that very soon. And then this one, we come out here and then screenshot this scene. And then this was the last one that I did at home after I came home from the cruise. Okay, and also I planned it so that I asked him to continue the pull-out motion so that when I start the first frame right here, it is a nicely framed shot where I am centered. You have items to your left and to your right, and there's nothing distracting from my head, and the framing is nice and works out. And then the reel starts from here, like this, and then continues. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how to open your laptop and how to close it, because this really matters when it comes to editing, and you can practice it as many times as you need. And this is really, really crucial because it will completely affect the mask if you don't film it right. And I made many mistakes before I got this final result. So this was actually shot on 1x, and I start by pulling back and showing the full laptop. But my room was a bit messy, so I didn't want to show too much of the room. So I just showed the laptop filling the screen. And then when you go in, you want to stop right when the length of the laptop screen fills the frame. And that's when you want to shut the laptop like this. Shut it like this. So there's a little bit of continuation of movement here. So you start close, pull out to show the whole laptop, go back in and shut the laptop. Now, this shutting the laptop, it's very important that you are at least this cropped in, because this affects your mask when you are masking it, and it will look most natural if you can fill the frame. Use the length of the laptop to fill the frame, and you'll understand when we actually do the masking. Before we start editing, I want to show you how I cropped this particular image. So first of all, you want to take a screenshot of what the laptop will come out of. And so I'm going to crop it so that it is roughly a nice laptop size. I'm just going to guesstimate because it's not going to be, you know, a deal breaker if there's a little black bar on your actual laptop itself, as long as you can see this main subject or selling point or item. So I'm going to drop it onto my laptop and then show you how I make it full screen. Okay, so now we have this cropped screenshot right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go look for full screen and just enter full screen. and it doesn't fit exactly, but it's perfectly fine. Like these little black bars on top and bottom won't affect the video at all. But you can see that the main selling point or subject is nicely centered. It's the biggest focus in the frame, so I know that this will definitely work when I'm filming it. Now let's load all of the clips into CapCut, and we'll start from the last clip here, and we'll just cut it off right where we want to start the reel, which is right here, and split that, and we'll move this all the way to the back. Okay, so now we have our first clip, and we open up the laptop right here, and what I like to do is go halfway through the motion, halfway through opening the laptop. That's where I split the frame. Why? Because you want to match this motion with the next video's motion, like this. So from here you're going to see the first part of opening and then the continuation of that motion, but from a different angle. Okay, like this, and then crop it off right here. So split that, delete, and now soon we're going to use a layer, but we can start trimming all of the clips first before we start layering everything. Okay, so this one looks good like this. We'll swipe up so we can split that here, delete the rest. Comes up from here, so let's find a good spot, maybe around here. Split and delete the beginning. Let's take a quick look first if that connects well. Nope. So we're going to have to trim this a bit more, and we might have to add a little bit of a blend in between the two. So we can experiment a little bit, but if you want to add a blend between the two, just tap on this little square in between the two clips, and we can try to test out a few things. So we can start with doing this mix effect where it kind of blends into each other. Looks pretty good actually. See how the blue blends into the gray of the bed like this? But also I think we'll need to speed it up as well. So let's deal with that a bit later after we trim the rest of the clip, so we can change the speed of everything. So here, wipe. So we find the spot right after the wipe happens, split it and delete the rest. And then the part where we wipe in from here, split, delete the beginning, and let's take a quick look first. Okay, so that's definitely going to require quite a bit of speed ramping. And this too is very slow, and we split it right here because this is where I took the screenshot for the next video. So let's find this spot right here, right before the camera starts moving back. This is where we want to split and delete, like this. It's already pretty close, but we're gonna make it a lot better. Okay, right here is where the next screenshot starts. And okay, split, delete. So now that we have trimmed all the clips, let's just play it over and take a quick look at what it looks like before we treat the clips and the in-between of the two clips. So this is the laptop shotting, and then this clip coming out. We've added a little blend between these two clips, but we need to speed ramp it. We're going to speed ramp this so it connects well. We're going to speed ramp this clip. In fact, all of the clips we're going to have to speed ramp it because you can see it's quite slow. And also we're going to have to match up the phone screen size to the actual screen before that, the frame before that. Okay. Okay, let's delete this end part. Okay, now we can start doing some masking and connecting all the clips and making it look smooth. So like I said, after you plan it all out and you finish all of these clips and you know the order in which it goes in, this editing becomes a lot simpler. It's not too complex. So first thing you want to do is you want to know that this part, you want to mask the top parts where you can see the pink dress, after you shut the laptop, right? This is the part where you want the bottom layer to be the actual footage of the cruise. So what we're going to do is make this an overlay. Tap on overlay. So now you can see it's on the top layer, on top of the video layer with the cruise. And you can see that the footage of the cruise on this bottom layer here got moved back in the timeline. So I'm just going to go in and put like a random photo as a placeholder so that we can push it ahead in the timeline. So I'm just going to add this picture right here and just make sure it is a placeholder for before we get into this clip right here. And I'm going to trim it a little so that we can move this clip forward in the timeline so that when it closes, you should walk out almost right away. Now what we want to do, we have this laptop layer on top of the cruise layer. We can start masking parts of this layer in order to reveal the bottom layer, which is the cruise ship video. We can use the horizontal mask, and notice it's in the wrong direction, so let's just turn it around and let's make sure it is straight with the laptop, and let's add a little feather, but just a tiny bit so that it looks kind of natural. It shouldn't be too blurry though, because we want it to look like there's a concise edge to the laptop. So we now have moved the mask from here up to here, right where the edge of the laptop is and where it's going to start shutting. And we're going to animate this mask so that as you come down with your laptop, the mask moves down to reveal what's behind the laptop. So let's add a keyframe roughly here. So we have a keyframe right here, and we can start to animate this mask to reveal. So let's move this down like this and a little bit more. And then for the remainder part of this video, we want the laptop to exit the frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to move forward in the timeline and just move this entire layer downwards. So let's deselect the mask and let's just animate this mask out of the frame. And let's see how that looks. Okay, that looks pretty good. So what you have right here is you see the cruise, you see this picture, and then you see it come down and it reveals the actual cruise itself. And with each mask, with each frame, the mask moves down and then the whole laptop gets animated out of the frame to reveal the final cruise ship. Like this. And it matches pretty well because the size of the ship here and the position roughly matches well with what's behind. So now let's play it back at real-time speed. It's looking really good, but this is actually really slow. So I think we can speed it up when we add the music, but for now let's just connect all the clips so that it looks seamless first. So for this one, I definitely want to use some speed ramping at the end to make sure that it's actually gonna be smooth. Okay, let's say we speed it up to 1.4, maybe from here, maybe more here, 2x. Oh, that's too fast, definitely. We want to be able to see grabbing of the phone first before we speed up the wipe and the back end here. Okay, right, so let's take a quick look. Okay, this might even be a bit too fast, but let's speed up the next clip first before we go back in and adjust anything. Oftentimes when you are speed ramping between two clips to connect them, it's always speed ramping both of the clips to see what looks best before you make a decision on like how to continue to edit it. So it's trial and error adjusting between the two clips. See? Oh, that looks so much better than before, right? And all we did was some speed ramping. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure that these two match up well. So we want to make sure to find a frame where you can see the full screenshot
of this frame. And then now what you want to do is use the overlay method that we talked about in lesson 5. So we tap on overlay, move it to the top, drag this forward a tiny bit and go to the last frame of the previous clip, right? And then now we want to decrease the opacity and then match it up. Before we do that, we want to make sure to add a keyframe here, because we also want to add a keyframe to anchor this frame, because we don't actually want to affect the full clip. We only want the clip to be changed in the beginning here, right around here where we have a keyframe. So we want to anchor this position of the video on this particular keyframe by adding a keyframe here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back in here. We're going to match it to the last frame of the last clip. We're going to go to blend and decrease the opacity. This is why I said when you're filming, you want to make sure you don't crop in too much on the video and that you leave space around the phone, because now you can go in and zoom in and match the two clips very well. Okay, let's move it back to the main track. And let's start to do it with the other one right here. So same thing, you want to overlay, drag it forward, add a keyframe here to anchor it, and then reduce the opacity and start matching it up. Now, when I'm doing this opacity thing, I generally don't overlay it exactly. I move the top layer next to the bottom layer, and then I match their height before I move it back, because otherwise with the opacity it's a little hard to see really. Okay, I think I need to rotate this clip maybe by 1 or 2 degrees, because the arms are not matching up. So let's go to basic, rotate, and just rotate it. Maybe test it out a tiny bit, see what works. Like this. Oh, that's better. Maybe we reduce the size a little bit. Looks like the tilt of the phone is just making it a little hard to match up, but we're doing the best that we can. And now we can go back to blend and bring the opacity back. And we can also bring it back to the main track and play it. Okay, that looks fine. Now let's do the same for this. Okay, I think that is matched up. Let's take a quick look. Okay, so this is what happens when you don't add a keyframe to the end to anchor the video. So you see how I've added a keyframe here to try to match this clip with the bottom clip like this, and it's matched well. However, because this last frame I did not add a keyframe to anchor the position, the size, and everything of this clip, it is now super cropped in and in a weird framing. So we're gonna go back, add a keyframe, make sure to crop it back to its normal size. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna animate from here to here, this size. And maybe what we want it to do is to zoom out sooner, so we can place another keyframe earlier on and just reduce the size. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, I think that works so far. Okay, now let's play it from the beginning and just make sure each clip are connected well. And then what we'll do is put the music in and speed ramp all of the parts so that it looks even smoother and also so that it matches the beat well. Alright, that looks pretty good, but one thing I noticed was that because we're zooming in quite a bit to match between the two clips, as you can see here, like you can see how much we actually cropped in on the clip, I noticed that it's taking a long time for us to actually see the full frame of the subject. So what I want to do is go and add in a keyframe in between, and I want to start to make this frame smaller so that we can see the main subject in its full body size sooner. Like that looks a lot better than before. So if you just compare this, if you see the speed at which it zooms out versus what we had before, which had no keyframe in the middle, like this, it takes a long time for it to slowly zoom out on the frame, right? So we want to add that keyframe for this reason. Now, I want to do it to most of these clips, like this one. I feel like by the time we get here, we should be able to see the full body of the subject already. And also, let's unrotate that. So now let's take a look again. And here, I would like this to be more cropped out by here. Okay. I think this one looks fine. And then this one looks okay too. But we could definitely add one more keyframe here where we zoom out quicker. Okay, like this. Okay, great. Let's play that back. That looks better for sure. All right, great. Now that this is all good, let's put in the music. So I'm going to drag the song that I downloaded from Epidemic Sound, which is a music subscription that I pay for. And now it's been dropped to my phone. And what I want to do is, it's inside my files. So what I want to do is go to the bottom button and then select CapCut and then import to CapCut. So now I've imported this external music clip into CapCut. I want to find the part where the beat drops, and I'm going to put the beat drop right here when you reveal the ship. So if you look at the sound wave of this song, you can see where the individual beats are, and you can also see where here, this is clearly where the beat drops, right here. So we're gonna crop, split here, delete the first part, and just move this forward. And let's crop it until we can find the right part of the song. Oh. Move it around here. Okay, that looks pretty good. That sounds pretty good. So we're gonna drag the rest of the music clip to the front. That looks good. Now that we have the music in here, we can start to go in and really speed up all the clips so that it's speedy, it's fast. Every transition is roughly 2 to 3 seconds, so it doesn't drag on for too long. So this one is 4.7 seconds, clearly too long. So we're going to go in speed curve, and let's start speed ramping this. Let's say We want the overall speed to be at 1.3 to 1.4 maybe, at least. But the wipe up can be faster, maybe like at 2x. Okay. It's looking pretty good. So let's play it. Okay. Right now what I'm seeing is that this blend is taking too long, and you can see the blend start from here. And so that's not really what we want. So let's reduce the number of seconds. That's much better, right? So when you find that the transition between the two clips are taking too long and it's looking unnatural, you just want to go back in and reduce the number of seconds that it takes of the duration of the transition, okay? Okay, now this is definitely too slow. Usually whip pan up is not so slow. This clip is also 3.2 seconds. We can definitely speed it up. Let's again speed ramp the beginning. Let's say it's pretty slow, so I'm going to do 3x. I saw walkover pretty slow, so I'm going to also speed up this middle part. Okay. Now it looks maybe a little fast. So let's just make minor adjustments. It's all about just keeping making small adjustments until you get the right mix in terms of the music, the speed, and everything. I also like to match every wipe or transition with the beat. So you can see here, first of all, of course, the beat drop happens when you close the laptop. You see that song? This is a good spot to wipe because there's a beat to it too. Okay, let's continue. Let's speed it up. Let's take a quick look. Okay, that looks good. Now let's adjust the speed of this. Okay, looks pretty nice. Let's take a look at the whole thing. Okay, let's go to this clip. Speed this up. Okay, that looks really good so far. So I have adjusted the speed on every clip so that they're roughly around 2 to 3 seconds. I think for me that has generally been the sweet spot of having one clip transition to the next clip. So now let's take a look at the whole thing. Okay, that's looking good. Now what we want to do is just split the music and delete the rest. What I'm going to do, in fact, is I'm going to take the beginning part of the music, I'm going to split it, and I'm going to duplicate it because we want this to loop. So we want to also adjust the music so that it will be pretty seamless. So now what we have done is we have moved it to the very end. So let's make sure to snap these music to the right spot in the frame. So this goes here. And the purpose of this is, if you imagine this as a loop, right here, this is the start of the music if you loop it again. This is the end. And you want to connect the end and the beginning. So how do you do that? What I do is I drag this part of the music back a few frames, like maybe 2 seconds. And then I also drag this back so that there's a little overlap in between. So what we want to do now is fade in on the beginning clip and then fade out on the end clip. Okay, so go to fade and select fade with this clip selected. And with this, we want to fade out like this. Okay. Now let's listen to this last part, and you notice, and then what we want to do is then also crop this up and end here, so that when this loops, the music will seamlessly start over. Okay, let's take a listen to this, and then also let's let it replay as it loops. So that's how I make the music loop in a looping video. All right, now that all looks pretty good, the last step really, and this is optional, is I would like to add a little bit of sound effects. In the ad, I also did a little voiceover, and all I did was I used this voiceover function, and I recorded myself saying like, oh, I wish I could go on a cruise, how about this one? And so it's just a simple voiceover that I added to this clip. Now I want to show you how to add sound effects. So CapCut has a great selection of sound effects. So I would add sound effects at places where there's motion. So especially when it's like a whip pan like this, whoop, I would do a little whoosh motion, a whoosh sound effect. So if you go to audio and sound effects, here, sound effects, there's quite a few. So they have a whoosh right here. So that works. There's a deep whoosh. You have a swish. So I think we can do a swish here. And then there's another little wipe here. Let's try to add another sound effect. Let's add the whoosh sound. And the rest sounds pretty good. But there is one thing that I wanted to point out. Notice how here this clip has a cheering sound, like everyone's like, yay! And it's a really cool sound because it's like very celebratory. I think it's great to keep in the video instead of mute it out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to extract this audio and then be able to customize the audio as I go, because I want this audio to go beyond this particular clip and continue to the end of this clip. Okay, so the way you do that is you just tap on the clip and go to extract audio right here. Tap extract audio, and now you notice the audio is extracted. But you'll also notice that because I had sped up the clip, there's a little bit of like a funky chipmunk voice kind of sound. And then there's a yay sound, right? So what we want to do here is let's just go in and let's just reduce the speed to its original speed. Let's just go to the original, or we can choose to keep pitch. Keep pitch means that the audio will stay at the same pitch and not turn into this chipmunk voice. So we can do that. And actually it doesn't, people don't start cheering until roughly around here. So we just want this part, so we can actually fade in, we can crop out the rest, fade in on this part, fade in, and then we can also fade out because we want this to seamlessly fade out roughly around here and then become silent, right? So trim that and then go to fade and then select fade out. So let's listen to that again. Let's move this forward. Okay, and then maybe we expand this a little more and then start fading out even more. Okay, I think that should be pretty good. We could also move this forward a bit so we have more of this clip. Okay. And then it loops to the front. Okay, let's listen to the whole thing. Now this is pretty much complete and all we have to do is export.